hardly doing acrobatics and fighting him. She's going to be geriatric.
But you said you get the vibe that he's got something behind the eyes in the same way that you feel about Mr. Beast. He's got something behind the eyes that's unsettling.
Yeah, but I feel that way about a lot of people.
Well, here's the thing. So Dallas Jenkins watched our video where we talked about that, and he commented, "Love the discussion." That gives us nothing. So thanks a lot for that. I think
he's not going to spoil it on our YouTube.
Why not? In our comment section?
Welcome back to the magical, mandatory, wise works. Is it not this?
You said magical, mandatory, like it's the midnight special.
Is that the midnight special? What is it? Welcome to the wacky, wonderful, wise works podcast. There we go.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I'm still thinking like I'm in 2020 or 2020,
Right.
Yeah, 2021.
We are going to bring back the midnight special someday. It just has to be under the right circumstance. I mean, that's how I feel about it. For people who don't know, the midnight special was a audio only with Patreon video show that we did extra podcast episode where we just shot the S for an hour or so, and it was always a wild ride.
Would you think if we? I'm gonna just throw this out there right now and see what people think. Our listeners.
Okay.
A midnight special once a week, $1 tier on the Patreon, where they get the midnight special once a week for $1. So if we got enough people that were interested in doing it, would it be worth it for us?
Yeah, but we're not. We can't even get people on Patreon right now.
I mean, so many people keep saying they want the midnight special back. Would you pay $1 a month?
They wouldn't. They wouldn't. I'm pretty sure we have to. We have to find an audience that's outside of. I don't even know how to say it. It needs to be people we don't know for sure, and then it's going to be a small section of those people that actually want to pay for anything. And then there's going to be a smaller section that are willing to subscribe to a $1 only get the midnight special tier. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think of this in 1%. So roughly on YouTube, 1% of this is an averaged number. 1% of your audience will pay you for something. Okay. So 100,000 people, you get 1,000. All right. 1 million people, that's 10,000, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So if you want to, and so usually people that have close to 1 million subscribers have around between 5 and 10,000 Patreon followers. That's a general rule. And so, and if you actually look at how many people we have on Patreon and our YouTube numbers, it lines up. So, so yeah, that's the thought there. The midnight special will come back, but it's going to take a little bit. Now, I did want to kick off. Is it okay if I take something and run, Joshua? This is your produced episode.
It depends. Are you going to be running on water, or are you going to be?
No, I wanted to give
running
some
on
thoughts.
water. Oh.
No. I wanted to give some thoughts about the Chosen. What?
That's what I was teeing you up for. I said running on water.
Yeah,
it was a
terrible
bad segue.
Terrible, but when have I ever done a transition that was actually good?
Oh, running on water was not bad, but I wasn't ready to pick it up. I didn't know where to go past that, except just say, all right, The Chosen. Jesus. So I went and watched the first 3
You're
episodes.
saying that like, gee, we're talking about Jesus, not like Jesus.
Yeah, I'm not taking his name in vain.
Yes.
That's important. Now, I watched the first 3 episodes of The Chosen last night. I'm not going to stay on it too long. No spoilers. Not publicly on our channel anyway at this point.
What?
And I just want to share some thoughts. So there was 3 these aren't really spoilers. These are high view things. Nothing that involves these characters matters, except for one that the show opens with season, and it's in the trailer. And if you know the Bible, you know this is coming. All right, so I'll spoil this. So John the Baptist is beheaded. All right. And we deal a lot with Jesus and the disciples mourning and going through the process of mourning John the Baptist. All right. There's also a lot that has to do with the first 3 episodes of the Matthew and Simon relationship. It's been contentious because Matthew was once a tax collector and really screwed Simon over. If you guys know the Bible, Simon gets a new name from Jesus. I won't say what that name is. Everybody knows it, but he does. That does happen in this season, as well as the relationship.
These episodes,
yeah. As
season, you didn't watch the whole season.
The first 3 episodes. Also, the relationship between Thomas and Rhema gets rekindled. She comes back into the story that we didn't see a lot of her in season 3. So, so that those are like the main areas that the first 3 episodes deals with, and. If I'm going to break them down, I will say the most important. There's one area that got me crying. All right, the way they presented John getting killed was very touching to me personally and very moving. All right, the way that they told the story and it was very well done. It's right there close to the top of the first. Actually, I think it's towards the end of the very first episode, but the whole episode is leading up to it. Very interesting with the dancer and how that relates, like the performance that we saw in the trailer, and how that relates to John's death, as well as just literally the process and the way the scripting was made for that. So it's all very well done. I have no complaints at all. I think my biggest complaint was so that how sometimes they'll open an episode where they tell an older biblical story. We've gone back to David. We've gone to, I think, maybe not Solomon. So the season opens up with going back to when Mary and Who's the cousin? Who's John the Baptist's mother? Rachel?
No, Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah,
maybe Elizabeth. John the Baptist's mother, who's an old woman, right? They open up having a little back and forth between Elizabeth and Mary while they're both pregnant, which is nice. Elizabeth's scripting was a bit chatty at the top, and I would say she wasn't a bad actor, but she was almost seemed too excited to be on The Chosen. That's what it felt like. And she definitely gave it her best, this older lady. But, okay, contrasted heavily with the one who was playing her husband, I think, Zachariah. Let me look it up. Cast. So the guy who plays the John the Baptist's father, I think his name's Zachariah, who got hit with muteness, right?
Yeah.
Became a mute. He's the fella who plays in The Mask of Zorro back in the day. Like they pulled out the stops for him. The Chosen season
bad
4,
guy?
No, not the bad guy. He plays like the one that that's what I wanted to figure out his name. I'll come back to that when I do like an actual video on it. I'll cover all this, but
yeah,
that was my only complaint is John the Baptist's backstory a little bit. Right at the top, it wasn't the strongest way to open the show. Kind of felt like forced scripting. It didn't feel as natural. But once you get past that, everything else is very solid and very emotional, moving, big spoiler, big deal. A lot happens in this first 3 episodes. The theme of season 3 was the message of coming to Jesus or coming to God. I will give you rest, right?
Yeah.
And then the season, basically, it's people who are weary, God will give them rest. Now, this season is more along the lines of the disciples and Jesus are weary, okay? And they need rest. That's kind of the way Dallas puts it. And you can kind of see that coming with John the Baptist getting killed. Lazarus is gonna die. The shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. That was a whole mourning process for him, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing coming. And all that to say, it was solid. I think there's 2 more releases for the rest of the season before it comes out for free. I'm gonna go watch both of them, or at least that's my goal.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting take on this season, where it's like they've gone through a lot, and it feels like things keep happening, and I think that's something that people can relate to, and I think Dallas knows that. I think he's writing the show to be relatable to Christians. And probably people in general, of things happen, things keep happening, people die. You're trying to do your best, and it, sometimes feels like everything is against you. That's a good message. That's an important message.
And it's also I think there's a lot of hard stuff that's happening. Interestingly enough,
worth going to the theaters and see.
100% it's worth it. If you're a fan of The Chosen, these first 2-3 episodes don't let you down. It's just a good continuation of what you know and love. All right.
And I know what you love.
Okay, so the character of Shmuel.
Yeah.
You guys remember him?
Shmuel.
He has some very interesting moments in these first 3 episodes that I think was very complex for his character, because he's very anti-Jesus in the previous seasons, right? And then we get to this one, and now he's having a lot of thought bubbles. He's having a lot of questioning after he ends the season with going and praying with Jesus, right? Jesus invited him to pray after the feeding of the 5,000. That took place off camera, but the invite was on camera, all right? And he's kind of having a little bit of a crisis of what is he doing here, and what does he actually think about Jesus, which is nice to see. I'm curious to see where this non-biblical character goes, because when you're dealing with the non-biblical characters, it seems like they could take it anywhere. So that's kind of the fun of the show.
I mean, do they take it? Yeah, they take it.
But so I don't want to go too much else into it.
Yeah,
that's all the thoughts.
You were going to go quick. So just compared to the other seasons, just give us it's comparable to the other seasons, or it's better than the other seasons so far.
I think it's a stronger start than season 3.
Okay.
So season 3 kind of felt like it was leading up to the last couple episodes.
It was a slow build, yeah.
This is a much stronger start. It might be the strongest start to any of the seasons thus far.
So, just from what you've told me, I didn't go watch it. You were the only one who watched it. Season 3 there was a lot of spoilers, or not really spoilers, secret things that were at the end of that season with him walking on water. We weren't expecting that. We knew there was going to be the feeding of the 5,000, but there was kind of the walking on water, and they kind of kept that secret up till the end. So it was like building to that, where as of what you said, and I'm not going to say any spoilers, but like it kind of seems like these episodes have a lot of spoiler stuff in them to be looking forward to.
Well,
the first 3 seasons was building up to the end.
Yeah, this is one thing that I think you're gonna miss this season if you're trying to keep away from spoilers until it comes out for free to watch on the app. I don't think you're gonna be able to avoid it. The last season, the first 3 episodes released in theaters, and then the rest was on the app. This season, the whole show is being released in theaters before it comes out on the app. So you're just going to you're going to hear a lot of spoilers. There's already a lot of spoilers going around online about these first 3 episodes, and you're just not going to be able to avoid it. But it seems like they're also, I don't think, because this is a recent development, I don't think Dallas and the writers are scripting it with theaters in mind, like 3 episode, 3 episode, 3 episode kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't think so either.
At the same time, after last season, it wouldn't surprise me if they're doing what they can to almost make sure that there are big moments at the end of each theatrical cut. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that each theatrical release feels like it has a lot of substance there, and it doesn't feel like it's a dud 3 episodes somewhat.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you feel like the character building and setup is going to be designed for the season where the crucifixion takes place? Or do you think that the character and setup is looking more like all of the payoff is gonna come around after the ascension?
I think the payoff's after the ascension. This is why. So in the theater, Dallas did the Tom Cruise thing where he comes on screen and he thanks people for going to the theaters, gives you a
Thanks
little
for being a
inside
top
loop.
G.
He gave you a QR code to get a exclusive, like first look scene. I think for stuff that I think it was a deleted scene, honestly. But they released it for the people who go to the theaters. They can watch it and whatnot. So in that, he said, when he was talking about the heaviness of this season, he said it's leading to what we all know is coming when Jesus goes to Jerusalem. And then he said in season 5 and 6, we also know that season 7 7 seasons is the goal. So if we're talking about when Jesus is in Jerusalem for 5 and 6, I believe that last season is going to be probably ascension right at the end of the season, right at the beginning of the season 7. And then all of these the chosen people payoffs is going to probably happen throughout the 7th season, right? I think we're going to get a lot less of Jesus in season 7
because we know after the ascension, there's a lot of
Pentecost, right?
Yeah, but I think there's going to be a lot of character interactions and what do we do now that Jesus is gone, and a lot of gathering together in homes and praying and sort of being maybe a bit despondent.
Yeah.
And maybe a few payoffs in there for the character setups, but then when the Holy Spirit ascends on or descends
at Pentecost, right?
On the disciples, I think that's when we're going to get a lot of the big character payoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised if the season ends with the disciples going out to preach at Pentecost and then ending there.
That's true.
I think so too. I think I would agree with that.
It might be too difficult for them to try to say let's get on camera the Pentecost, you know what I mean? So it might be like leading right up to then where everyone assumes like we know what's about to happen. You're right. I did want to deal with this idea for this season is, do we truly think where he's going to Jerusalem and then we're going to have 2 full seasons of the week before, like the week and the week after of his crucifixion? I don't know, because Dallas says when he goes to Jerusalem in season 5 and 6. So do we think that this season's ending with the Palm Sunday, like we were teased in the trailer? Or
I've been saying this since the beginning.
Well, here's the thing. So Dallas Jenkins watched our video where we talked about that, and he commented, "Love the discussion." That gives us nothing. So thanks a lot for that. I think
he's not going to spoil it on our YouTube.
Season 5.
Why not? In our comment section?
Season 5 is going to be all of the lead up. It's going to be Palm Sunday. It's going to be the Garden of Gethsemane. It's going to be the Last Supper. It's going to be Judas's betrayal. It's probably going to be the Roman soldiers coming and getting Jesus. Maybe even some of the trial. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended it with them presenting him to Herod or to Pilate.
That's 5.
And then that's 5. And then 6 will be the crucifixion, the burial, the resurrection, and then Jesus's the witnessing of Jesus after he has risen from the dead, and the ascension.
And do you think season 7? Do you think they'll have the ascension, or is season 7 gonna start with the ascension?
It could be either or.
Yeah, that's a good freaking point. But again, that leaves us to wonder: do we truly think, because he said Jerusalem season 6 and 7, or season 5 and 6, do we think they're ending season 4 with him going to Jerusalem, or is that in mirrors? Because
it could be going to Jerusalem, but I don't think it'll be the big events of Jerusalem.
No.
I just don't really feel like the characters at the start of season 4 are even close to being. It's like it's
April.
Well, our calendar or their calendar?
Yeah, our calendar.
It's the week before Easter, isn't it?
That would be really cool if it was the end of the show, and they timed it perfectly to release that episode on like that week. Wouldn't it be cool?
Definitely Dallas Jenkins is thinking about like the resurrection whenever that happens is definitely going to be like
Easter.
It's definitely going to be like the week of Easter that episode's released.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I don't feel like any of the disciples and characters, like, here's a small spoiler. I talked about it. Simon just got his name changed to Peter just now. Okay. In the first 3, I don't feel like any of these disciples are quite ready to go to Jerusalem and then start the 2-week process of all of this other crucifixion. And
then it might be season 5 might be a little bit more establishing of their characters and some things, and then mid-season, that's when they'll start like Palm Sunday or something. But you got to remember the whole point is that none of them are ready.
No,
none of them truly understand what he means when he says that, you know, that he's going to sacrifice himself. None of them truly believe it. And so, no, none of them are ready for it to happen. And that shows in the way that all of them react.
And that's also, I think also that is a big part of this season is Jesus is communicating this to them and they're not getting it, because even in the first 3 episodes, there's 3 different occasions where he's being sincere and becomes very emotional about him telling them his purpose and what they're misunderstanding, and they're not getting it. You know what I mean? And he becomes very emotional about that. And I think you're right. It's definitely, they're not going to be ready. I just feel like there's so much more to capture or to like tidy up somewhat, I guess, in this story before we're ready to get to Jerusalem. Because once we hit Jerusalem, it's going to be it's off to the races, you know?
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what I said? I think this is going to end with Palm Sunday, and that's what I've said since we watched the trailer, but who knows, and we'll have to just wait and see. But you know what I'm not ready for?
Doubt it.
Dang it, man.
I'm not ready for them to come out with a Joker movie that's going to be a musical.
Okay. And why are you not ready for this? Is it because it's Lady Gaga?
Because the dramatic drama of the first Joker movie.
That's a bit redundant. Let's say that again. I can't let that slide. You said the dramatic drama. Freaking try again. Because that just got under my skin a little bit. Try it again. That's too redundant for this morning.
Giving us a drama-based movie and then switching it over to musical for a second one is ridiculous.
But a musical can be very dramatic. I think most musicals are. You've seen Les Mis.
Yeah, it can be. You can have a dramatic musical, but if you have one movie that's not a musical and then you give us music. It's like they're doing the Hobbit movies, but in reverse.
I think it could be somewhat satirical. Knowing how the first one was, the drama of the first one and the reaction of the first one, I think this one, the reason that they're going with musical is because there's something in us that relates a little bit of insanity to a little bit of music, and what is playing inside the heads of these maniacs.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I think we also kind of associate that musical style of filmmaking where people break out in song and dance to like that's a little bit insane. Nobody would do that in real life. So yeah, so when these a little bit insane characters are seeing things break out into song and dance, that's how you know that they're off.
A little bit odd.
But also it's just a fun way to tell it. Like, haven't you ever been curious about if Joker from Batman's story, if he played in a dark musical? We got multiple dark Joker films. I think a musical is a fun
twist to it.
Right.
It's definitely not expected, just like the Joker.
Yeah.
It's definitely unexpected.
It's almost like the director. What is the famous line from the Joker about, like, you want to hear a joke? And it's like, this movie's a musical.
Huh?
That's the director saying.
Like a non-funny Joker joke?
Yeah.
See, this kind of idea, I feel like, is based on almost like an obscure line from the Joker, be it in cartoons or a movie, where he's like, my whole life feels like a musical and I'm just having fun. Right. That's, and I feel like a director would be like, yes, I want to see that.
Also, wasn't it up in the air a little bit to know from the first Joker if this is all reality or is this like playing in his mind?
Like half the movie was in his mind. It was kind of weird.
Well, no, we don't know if it was or not. It was very much left up for interpretation. We don't know if his actions created this Joker chaos or if it was all made up by him. You know, like if the city was in shambles.
Like the association. Like, like confirmation bias. Like I do this drastic thing on this show, and I go outside and everybody's rioting. Is that because of me, or is that because of
just rioting?
Because of the society,
right? Yeah. And also there's also a level of the first film dealt very heavily with the Joker as a mentally ill person, you know. And that mental illness leads him into a place that is, because no other Joker, we just walk into the Joker story and we just assume he's nuts, he's psychotic, he is what he is. And this Joker film was trying to say, hey, this stems from mental illness. It's very untreated and has driven him into dark places that he doesn't really, he's lost the sense of reality and is living as a recluse in some fashion.
Right.
And that's what his mental illness has driven him to. Now, it also played the thing where we don't know if it's the way he's observing the world or if he's actually having an effect. You're right. It could be either way. And
I don't know. The timeline's weird with this because, like, he's old and Bruce Wayne is like a kid, which is odd.
But that's correct though. I mean, what isn't a version of the Joker from the comics like a very old man, right?
Well, he's always a little bit older than Bruce, but I never thought that he was like thought that he was like 40 years older than Bruce Wayne.
Well, he's not 40 years, maybe 25, 30.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, that's old enough for Bruce when he enters his mid-20s for the Joker to be in his 40s, right? Or 50s?
That would mean, yeah, but that would mean that the Joker was in his 20s during all this, and Joaquin Phoenix clearly is not in his 20s.
Right?
He might be. He just has a stressful life, Wyatt. And he smokes too many cigarettes.
Wrong.
Right. Too many cigarettes.
Impossible.
Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker in this film, is only 27.
And like, how old is Lady Gaga?
I mean,
in real life, or are we talking about their characters?
She'd be a bit dusty.
I mean, yeah, like she's 37 years old. Okay,
really?
Even if we chop off a couple years for the filming of this movie, and she's like 35, by the time Batman interacts with Harley Quinn, she's not going to be doing acrobatics and fighting him. She's going to be geriatric. Sorry about it.
You're right. I do have a question. Why does Lady Gaga look so freaking weird in real life, and in the movie she's in, she looks like a normal person?
I don't know. Go to the next slide.
Does that have to do with her makeup and her clothing choices when she's Lady Gaga, and then when she plays like a regular person,
she kind of feels like she's acting like a regular person. That's her acting.
She's a regular person on screen,
like a regular person. She's not. Yeah,
she is
not a regular person.
Herself is not a regular person.
I don't know. I would just the whole point of this segment, I was just wanting to go through these slides. These are some new pictures from set and from the film.
Now we've always wondered, is Lady Gaga a good choice? I think for the singing part of it, yes,
for
probably.
this version,
I think so.
Of
Yeah,
the Joker. Yeah, sure.
I like the way she looks here. She has that maniacal, kind of insane Harley Quinn smile here. I think it works. You see the teeth, the lipstick, it's all there.
As much as I'm not a fan of her music and her as a person in real life, I think she did a phenomenal job with
Star is Born.
A Star is Born.
Yeah.
And that song that she sang at the end just kind of capped off your emotions and made you feel for the character that Bradley Cooper was playing. And so I think she can do it. And so I think she's
got good acting chops. It's just her as a person's weird. Now, is this not the best?
Well, I mean, she at least will make a dress out of the acting chops.
Right. Okay. Is this maybe not the best acting choice to get a famous singer who obviously can sing, but also has a fan base that is that's called monsters or whatever, or little monsters or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And then she also has acting ability. Like she might be the best casting choice for a role of Harley Quinn.
No, she is. I love how you just breezed past my joke.
It was
I didn't hear.
It was pretty funny. He said, you said acting chops, and he said she could make a dress out of them.
I said at least she'll have a dress out of the acting chops because she wears meat dresses at the
right. I got you. Don't get too deep.
I think the decisions that they're making here is fine, considering that the direction that they're going with this Joker is definitely meant like a mental illness Joker, whereas the debate has always been thrown around if the Joker is insane, or if he is just, or if he's on the other end of the spectrum, so sane that he recognizes the hilarity of it all, and his actions are based on that.
Well, we're gonna find out, but I would gonna lean towards he's insane.
Oh, that's what they're doing in this.
Yeah,
they're absolutely going with he's insane in this. But so I think the decisions that they're making are in line with that narrative.
Do you guys think Todd Phillips is a genius director, or he's just stumbled across something that is beloved? Because it's
I don't like the first movie, so I don't.
No,
You don't?
No, okay. Mm-mm. The first movie's not I've said this since the beginning. The first movie is not a good Joker movie. If in the world of like Batman and all that stuff, it is a fantastic mental illness movie. I don't know how to describe it.
It's a great crazy movie,
and it's a good movie, but it's not a good superhero. Yeah.
Watching a character devolve, it's a great movie. It's shot very well. I agree. I'm not a fan of it as a Joker story because it doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like the Joker. in the animated series, in the Arkham games, in any
No,
of like
it's not.
the representations of who the Joker is, it feels he's kind of a pathetic Joker, honestly.
Joaquin Phoenix is definitely going to have to, go to a therapist after he's filmed this, because like between this and playing Napoleon, and then
Bayou is Afraid that came out.
Yeah, he's gonna have some messed up stuff.
Bo is Afraid. Bayou.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it spelled like Bayou?
It's just because that would be how you spelled Beaumont, Beaumont, or Beauregard, or names like that.
Freaking, I am so tired of stupid freaking words that doesn't make any sense when it comes to spelling.
You're it's the name thing for you. You're good at reading everything else but names. You suck at names.
Yeah, and reading in general.
Well, hold on. That's contradictory. I'm good at reading everything else but names. Yeah, and also reading in general.
Freaking
I never
said
both
reading
of you.
in general. That's
Screw both of you.
Wyatt be joking. I'm telling the truth here. You mess up on the names, but you're good with everything else. It's just, I don't know. You get this the hang up of the name.
Oh, I don't know. It's just that you get hung up. Now, Doug Phillips.
What about Mr. Doug?
Or Todd Phillips, not Doug. Todd Phillips. He directed War Dogs, Joshua. You love War Dogs.
It's a good movie, yeah.
He also directed The Three Hangovers, which are considered to be a very good comedy series.
Well, the first one's good.
It kind of falls apart a little bit, but Zach Galifianakis redeems it some.
Yeah, I would say so.
And he's known for comedies, and then the Joker was wildly successful. Can you name really quickly why you didn't like the first Joker, Wyatt?
It wasn't a Joker movie.
Yeah, the way to portray the Joker as
I would agree.
You're just upset that he took a IP or a character and then made it his own story.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not upset that he did that. That's always that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't like that the Joker, who is a villain, and is evil and is a mastermind, like a super genius, right? Okay. I don't like the idea that he's this kind of dumb, kind of pathetic loser with a laughing thing that he can't control, right. And clearly a mental illness, and he's just down on his luck because of society.
So, like I said, you know what the Joker is, and it always has
feel been. Like it doesn't feel like the Joker. It feels like a completely different character that is an interesting character, but it's not the Joker. It's not somebody who would have any chance against Batman.
So that's what you're saying. It's you're upset that they made the Joker you're upset that he took his story and made it the Joker character when it shouldn't be the Joker character.
It should have been an original character.
Sure, but it wouldn't have gotten sold if it wasn't the Joker.
Right. It would have been more along the lines of what's the Nightcrawler.
Okay, so you're hoping that
Jake Gyllenhaal playing Joker, that'd be crazy.
That the Nightcrawler character feels more like the Joker.
Yeah. Well,
than this character.
I think wait, let me first say this. I think I can't criticize the way he did it in the sense of I'm going to disagree with it and I would have done it differently, but I can't disagree with it because it's how he chose to tell this story from his perspective, his version of it. And so I'm giving him that freedom as a director. But also, I think it's refreshing as just a movie, a standalone movie, because I don't want to see the origin story superhero thing again. Even with Suicide Squad, they've done that where it's like origin story. It just feels like another superhero thing. And it's like, I don't want to see that again. I want to see something totally different. And he definitely gave us something totally different with this.
I also don't want to relate to the villains.
You don't?
Yeah.
No, I want villains to be villains. I want them to be bad. That's why there's superheroes to defeat them. because they're evil and they're doing evil things. I get it's sometimes interesting to do a more tragic take on the villain character, but it seems like more and more these days we're just moving into, the villains are tragic. They're tragic heroes, right? That's a good story, but it can't be the only story that we're telling.
You like black and white tropes around thrown into your storytelling to create a different story, but you like to have your black and white tropes in there.
Yeah, the black and white tropes help to establish what kind of world you're in, and then you can play with those concepts a little bit more. You can move.
You and John Mark
can move between those. You can move between that line with your heroes and villains. Your villain doesn't have to do evil things all the time. It's always interesting to see a villain buy an ice cream cone for a child, right? And then he goes into a room and murders 30 people. That doesn't make him a good person, right?
It just means he did a kind thing.
It just it makes for a more interesting character.
Okay, so do you think in any capacity, since we're past the first Joker and now we're telling a more established, or at least where he's at established, do you think Joker, Folie à Deux, is actually going to redeem him as a Joker character for you at all, Wyatt? Do you think they're going to take any direction where they make him formidable in some fashion?
It would have to be... I don't know. I think they're going to focus more on the mental aspect of Joker, the public figure of Joker, as where Joker is less a mastermind and more of a public symbol. Almost as if people identified with Joker as a hero, even though he's a villain, rather than Batman. I think they could take it in that direction. I don't know that it's going to redeem the series for me or the first one, but I'm not saying that it's going to be a bad movie.
I think they have a lot going for them here.
Yeah, I think it's going to start off in Arkham Asylum, where we left off, and then that's where he's going to meet Harley Quinn, and it's going to move out of that and be more out on the streets like we saw from the first one.
And yeah, everyone's just itching for the trailer because I believe this film's coming out this year, so there's got to be a trailer anytime now.
Yeah,
there might be one this week, and this might be delayed podcasting.
Right.
All right. Yeah, let's move on, Joshua. I've given all my thoughts about the Joker.
Yeah,
and the Chosen, honestly.
Thank you, Cynthia, for being a Patreon supporter. If you guys want to be a Patreon supporter and get exclusive content, this podcast a week early, then go check it out. The link's down below this episode. Thank you, Cynthia, for being a Patreon supporter.
Thank you, Cynthia. All right. You said you have a handful of other things you want to talk about, Joshua.
Yeah. So we're not gonna the last segments are kind of touch and go here, because we don't have too much information on all of them. But it's kind of like, we want to just touch them. So
I have a strong opinion about everything.
Our resident foot lover here, the footman, as we like to say.
For audio listeners, please give him his name.
Quentin Tarantino is coming up, and he has a script and is in process of pre-production for his final movie.
The Movie Critic.
Yes. So there is an IMDb that has been created for this because they've started gathering some information for it.
I know Brad Pitt's in it.
Yes. That's the kind of major news that has come out this week. Or
did I spoil it?
No. I mean, that you kind of just introduced.
Oh, okay.
Brad Pitt's going to be the, I guess, critic.
Mm-hmm.
So go up to the top.
Paul Walter Hauser?
Before we click on that, Joseph, really quickly go up to the top. Just a very brief summary of what the film is.
Story of an irreverent critic in 1970s California who reviews mainstream movies for a porno magazine called Pop Star Pages. Now,
Irreverent.
Oh, is that what it said?
You said irrelevant.
Oh,
maybe it's not only names.
Freaking stop it. Stop with the corrections. Stop with the proving that I suck at reading. Stop.
We don't have to prove it.
Okay, Joshua said, "All right, let's read this." Are you guys want to step up to the plate and read it?
I have.
Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. Let me read it.
We already read it. We already read it. Move on. All right, who's Paul Walter Hauser?
Oh,
I know his face.
Yeah.
I, Tonya with Margot Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
Blackbird.
I recognize him from Cobra Kai. He plays Stingray.
Yes.
In Cobra Kai.
He does play the Sting boy.
Yeah.
What do I recognize him from? Cruella. That's what I recognize him from. Yeah.
Scroll back up. I want to see his photo again. Just so we can get a visual picture of his face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's been in quite a bit, actually. I recognize him from other stuff as well. Now,
he kind of reminds me of Stavros of the acting world. Stavros.
Stavy Baby.
Stavy Baby of the acting world. I don't know if
you guys see this, but I don't know if this is this a fan something? Django versus Zorro? Do you see this?
I don't know. Is it a
is this a show? Is this a cartoon? Animate?
I don't know.
I don't know. I just saw this. It's recommended on IMDb under the movie.
I don't know what that is.
But this looks awesome. I love an idea of Zorro and Django mashup. Ooh, doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Let's get back to the movie critic. So we're doing a irreverent critic from the 1970s in California. Again, with California, he's obsessed with it.
Yeah. Well, I think Quentin Tarantino kind of he plays with especially his last couple films, and he said this on Joe Rogan when he went on Joe Rogan and did a podcast. He kind of said that he's kind of pointing to Hollywood and saying, this is your faults type thing. Right. It's like things that he's seen in his career, his long career of being in Hollywood, and being like, this is your faults, and this is, I don't like it. I'm gonna make fun of it in a movie.
Keep in mind, Quentin Tarantino had a very close relationship with Harvey Weinstein, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting the types of movies he's made, and it's interesting he likes to go back to California.
Well, he's lived there. It's where his freaking movies.
But it's the same way with like Spielberg. You know, that Northern California vibe.
Yeah.
It's like John Hughes and
the 80s.
No. I'm talking about like what is it? Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
Where they live?
Sure.
Yeah, that sort of Midwest kind of Chicago atmosphere with John Hughes. A lot of directors lean towards where they grew up, where they have
because they're normally telling, even if they're not telling a personal thing that happened from their life, they almost, a lot of writers put themselves in the story and say, like, I kind of resonate with this character, and I'll throw in a few things that maybe are personal to me, and so I kind of am, this is kind of loosely based on something that really happened.
And you can definitely tell by the way that he films California streets and LA and all that. There's a personal connection, which is cool. I like when directors use their connection to a location to give it a little bit of nostalgia for the people watching.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys something that's definitely Quentin Tarantino is gifted with, but I think most directors are gifted with. Do you think so? Quentin Tarantino went from being outside of the industry and loving movies to producing and directing the highest quality, highest performing films on the market. You know what I'm saying? Like his first film popped off, second film popped off, every film he's done's popped off. This is only going to be his 10th movie, all right? And everything he's done has worked as far as money goes.
Well, this is his 10th movie directing, but he's acted in things too.
Listen, what I'm trying to say is when you hear his story, he started in the industry, very inexperienced, but it worked. He had a brain that is able to be a director. And there's also like a detailedness to some directors' brains that really, it's like I partly understand it in some ways when I observe it in other people, like Quentin Tarantino. I'm like, this is insane the way your brain must work, to where the conversations that these characters are having, especially for Quentin's films, the scripting, the details of the way they look, how they move through the scene and what's important there. Like these like the iconic shots, the iconic moments that we have from things like Pulp Fiction. Do we honestly think that was out of his brain, or it was just magic that happened while on set that they added to the script because John Travolta did a little twist dance and pointing thing? You know what I'm saying?
No, that's definitely in his mind. If you so last year or 2 years ago, 2022, we kind of did the Quentin Tarantino thing, and we went through like all of his films, and you kind of see the similarities between all of them, and there's something there with Quentin and with how he visualizes things, and also
and how he scripts it.
He scripts it, but he also like the dialogue is very heavy with his
scripting.
He's good at those conversational based scenes to set up something.
It seems like when directors lean into what they're good at, even if it's even if you watch it and you're like, oh, this is very clearly something that Quentin does, or Sam Raimi or Christopher Nolan or Wes Anderson, when they lean into their things, that's kind of what people are looking for in their movies, is their thing. And people enjoy those movies for that kind of particular, that director's spin on filmmaking.
Do you think Jordan Peele has a thing besides the type of films he makes? When you just look at his filmmaking and the editing choices, do you feel like he has a style yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, he has a type of movie.
No.
But
style.
when you watch a scene, you say like the way the camera moved, the way this edit paces, like this feels like Jordan Peele. Do you think you feel that?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% convinced yet.
No,
I feel like when it comes to cinematography and when it comes to editing, I don't feel like I've understood Jordan Peele's voice yet.
I've definitely seen when going from, because I watched Nope first and then I watched Get Out. I was like I could definitely feel his style going from one film to another, even though it's a little bit more refined in Nope.
But that has a lot to do with the music, and it has a lot to do with the type of story he's telling and the scripting.
No, he does a lot of handhelds more than most people do, and you see that in like the very like almost Spielberg Warner handheld type things, but it's not as steady as like a Spielberg Warner would be. It's very shaky, and he does that in all of his films.
But if you give me an M. Night Shyamalan scene, I will know it's M. Night Shyamalan within 3 minutes, within maybe 30 seconds.
He's got way more films.
This might be a little bit too specific, but the things I remember specifically from Jordan Peele directing stuff is his sort of slow pan, like around a corner.
Okay.
I remember shots specifically from like the chimpanzee scene in Nope, and a few other scenes in Get Out, and even scenes in the Key and Peele sketches that have this sort of slow pan around.
Yeah.
Especially like around a corner or around a character,
or observing the environment slowly.
Slowly, yeah.
You're telling a story with that one shot, right?
It's almost like you're in a crowd of people, and you know that if you say something very specific, like a joke, that this one person's going to resonate with it and they're going to laugh. And so you're having a conversation and you say the joke, and then you kind of like look at them to see what their reaction's going to be. And so it's almost like you say the joke and it's like you look.
Right.
It's almost like the camera is like, it's either something scary or a joke. It's like you say it and then turn and look. And that's almost how his camera style is. I know what you're saying, Wyatt.
Yeah, that may be too vague, but I feel like that I remember a lot of that kind of camera work in his stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you guys something. Since we're getting on camera work a little bit, I'm having this constant playing in my head of this one shot that's stuck with me for a long time. You guys watch Gone with the Wind, right?
Yep.
It's been a long time. Dude.
Tell me if this shot stuck with you. There's a scene where she's either looking for someone, because I think I watched it once. That shows how much
I'm thinking of.
She's looking for someone during the war, or she's just amidst people who have been injured during the war, and it's one long shot of starting close with her, and then it pans out and it goes up into the sky, and it reveals an entire field of beds and people that are injured from war, and it's just really long, and it's the point of it is to show you the scale of how bloody this war is, right? And how and this world that she finds herself in the midst of war. And it really stuck with me, that scene, that shot, because the rest of the movie is whatever. I'm not super impressed, even though it's an iconic film. And all the musical numbers, I don't give a crap. But that one shot really stuck with me. And I don't feel like I've seen that intentionality as far as, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, she's walking amidst the beds and it's just a slow pan out to just reveal. It's probably done on a helicopter or something like that. But to just reveal this, and I think this shot just goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could be remembering it very wrong, but I'm sure everyone that are fans of Gone with the Wind. So that scene didn't stick with you. Is there anything from the classic movies that stuck with you as far as shots choices?
Oh man,
there's so many,
dude. The end of Casablanca,
okay,
where Humphrey Bogart and the I think police chief, where they walk into the fog side by side after the plane takes off, where they just walk into the fog, and of course Bogart says the line, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
It's almost like the scene in Road to Perdition. Is that what it is, Joseph? The one you really like, the Tom Hanks movie. Isn't there? He's on the bridge. He's on the bridge at the end, and he kind of walks into the fog or something like that, right?
I only watched it once. It didn't stick with me, so I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a shot like that in that movie, but yeah, I know what you're saying, Wyatt.
Yeah, it's good. It's the two of them just walking away. It's one of those. Yeah, that's one of those camera work scenes that I think it's not even a like unique camera angle or anything. It's just the feeling and the emotion and the dialogue all in that scene kind of all hit right. And that, even though I think I've only seen Casablanca twice, that scene does specifically sort of hit you.
I love this so much of the very emotional aspect you get from specific shots that, like, you wouldn't think to be a really, really good DP. And maybe
Greg Fraser.
I was gonna say Greg Fraser. Maybe he's more subtle about it, that you don't see it because he's good at what he does. But I don't get this from him, like the Spielberg oneers, where that you hold on a shot for so long, but you show us so much. And
Steven Spielberg's doing that because he has a history of being like he needs to tell story without it taking all day. And Steven Spielberg has publicly said he doesn't like just do Spielberg wonders because he thinks it's like artistically the right choice. He does it because it's convenient.
Yeah.
Well, he does it because you can just put the camera on one side of the bookshelf, put your actors on the other side of the bookshelf, and have them do the whole scene, and you're like panning back and forth or going up and down, and you see the foreground of the bookshelf, and you're watching these, and you're looking through the bookshelf, and you're watching these actors do this whole scene, and it's interesting because you have foreground, middle ground, and background, you know? And he'll just do that. He'll hold that for like 5 minutes and just let the actors go.
You really like Greg Fraser, and he's a Hollywood DP. There's one guy, and I've talked to you about him. I've even mentioned him on this podcast quite a few times, and he's well known now, but he wasn't well known as much before.
The Mandalorian.
Well, I was going to say Dan Mace. He's not a Hollywood director or a Hollywood DP, but Dan Mace, who now does Beast Philanthropy. He runs that channel for Mr. Beast. But he was, before Mr. Beast, I was watching his stuff. If you go back to his YouTube channel, he has his own YouTube channel. I would love to see a feature-length film with him as the DP. I feel like that would be really, really good.
Now, hold on. Why do you think he's such a good DP?
He's very creative with his storytelling in how he gets shots and how he's very creative with his camera.
Wyatt, you had a thought about Dan Mace a while back that you shared with me.
Don't remember.
Okay, so it was, you were showing me he turned a truck into a camera, right?
Yes.
You you told me one time, Wyatt, that you said that this guy seems like Joshua likes him, but you said you get the vibe that he's got something behind the eyes, in the same way that you feel about Mr. Beast. He's got something behind the eyes that's unsettling.
Yeah, but I feel that way about a lot of people. I think my biggest thing was I didn't like how number one, how close he would get, how close he would frame his face, and how just super sharp and clear. It was something that was done a lot for a few years by definitely the more creative camera people. They would frame up their shots where they're very center and
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Just straight up, just talking to the camera. Probably started a lot with what's the Casey Neistat?
Yeah, which he's Casey Neistat's friend. That's kind of why I heard about it.
It was a big YouTube thing. I just thought that it was a little bit too number one, close to the camera, and number two, really, really sharp. It seemed like very clear, almost to show how good your camera is, that everything is so sharp, everything is so clear, because I work with the best cameras. But like his video that Josh showed me with the camera with the truck, it was very entertaining.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like in some fashion, how he frames himself up as a YouTuber can be annoying and unsettling. But I kind of agree with you. I don't know if I agree with you about Mr. Beast. I think Mr. Beast is a know-it-all, and he's probably annoying to be around, but I don't think he's a bad person. I don't know about Dan Mace. Dan Mace could be a bad person. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't know any of these people.
I only.
But when I look at Greg Fraser, when I look at Greg Fraser here, I'm like, I want to be his best friend.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have the face of I want to be a best friend with this guy?
Yeah, he looks wonderful. Super average.
Yeah,
and he looks like super average guy.
He looks like the tech guy that would be at like a kind of small church that But like he always he's only in the sound booth. That's the only place you're gonna ever catch him. He doesn't sit in the crowd.
This is a face of a modern day cinematic genius. All right,
isn't that crazy? He's just like this normal looking
British dude.
Filming some of the most beautiful things.
No, his cinematography is honestly the best on the market. Someone's got to do it. Why not be the average British Greg? You know,
right?
We should coin the phrase "the average Greg," because I feel like that's just as popular a name as Joe, right?
Just as average.
Let's wrap up Quentin Tarantino. Any other thoughts about the movie critic that we need to discuss before it comes out?
No, that's all. I just want to say maybe we shouldn't wrap up Quentin. Maybe let those toes out, and that's what we should end with.
It's interesting that the film's going to be about. He always takes like the harshest of topics. A movie critic for what was it coined?
A porno magazine.
Who reviews mainstream movies for a porno magazine?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, that's always because the industry was there for a long time of articles and reviews in magazines. And definitely during the 70s and 80s, you know, everybody, that's where you got your news. That's where you got your, you know, your opinions was in newspapers and magazines and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think the first nudity on camera, like the first full nudity on camera, like a motion picture in a movie was in the late 70s. I think
in America, at least.
Well, yeah, there's always exceptions. I mean, there's been somebody that's filmed complete nudity somewhere, but publicly distributed full nudity, like in the porn category, was in the 70s.
Right? And that, you know, the French have always pretended like their movies are art, but
it's just, that's just an opportunity for men to be dirtbags.
Every French film I've seen, or pieces of French films that I've seen, have been like, you know, pretentious art trash.
Right, pretentious art. Hey, look, I'm no fan of the French.
I know that's because the whole country is pretentious art trash.
Look, and I think I have a little bit of French in my blood or in my lineage, and I know the French really helped out America, like Washington, when they were going through the wars back then, the Revolutionary War. But I am not a fan of the French. Not at all. No, not at all.
But there's a piece. But you said it's in your lineage, so there's a piece of you that wants to raise the white flag. 1% that just wants to give up and surrender.
Yeah, all their revolution. How'd that go? That was the biggest failure in history, in war history, man.
They really set up Napoleon.
All right, movie critic. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like we should move on. You got a couple more things, right?
One more, and then really quickly, I'm gonna review Percy Jackson because it's done. I'm just gonna throw that in there. It's gonna be a quick thing.
All right, review it real quick. I'm curious. Before we'll tease up, so we're gonna talk about Joe Rogan next. I think
Joe Rogan and Spotify. Next.
Spotify deal. It's an update, big update. But before we get to that, friggin', what's the review?
Well, I guess we can just
give us the review right now.
Really quickly, the review. Disney didn't do that great of a job, in my opinion, with a good story. Everybody I've talked to, they're like, I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. The acting was really bad, and it wasn't very good. I know the movies are not as accurate to the book, and so people are upset with the movies. But the movies, even the second one, which wasn't as good as the first one, was way better than anything we saw in this show.
Wow.
Because the show had terrible acting. It had a black Zeus and then a white Poseidon. How does that work? Because they're brothers.
Yeah, they're brothers.
I don't get that.
And it's Greek mythology.
Yeah, and so Disney, you had a chance and you lost it. I don't know why you lost it.
Big surprise there.
But
this has been look. Last year was the year of Disney the Disney reaped what they sowed last year.
Yeah.
In 2023.
We're not going off on Disney because this is not a review of Disney, the company. We're just
this adds to the monstrosity of a pile that's being just labeled as a flop.
Do you think another studio could have done this better, Josh?
Yeah, but let me finish my thoughts. I want to get out a few thoughts about this show, and then we'll talk about Disney. I don't want to cross over. Okay. So yeah, I've never read the books, but in the books, he finishes his quest because this is like a quest. Percy Jackson goes on the quest. And in this show, he does not fulfill his quest. I know Percy Jackson is mainly about Half-Blood, the camp, and that's what Percy Jackson is. Percy Jackson and the camp is really the stories, but he does not complete his quest like he does in the book. They kind of leave you on a cliffhanger with this season, probably so that they can get a season 2 out of this, but I think that was a dumb choice. I don't know. What are you doing, Disney? Let's go back to Disney.
Well, I think
that'll make a good short. I can tell you're thinking about shorts, Joshua, because ending with "What are you doing, Disney?" That'll be a good short, I think.
I mean, we kind of it's a played out thing at this point that Disney's not creating good stuff,
right?
And the trend seems to be right, at least for the past couple of years, is grab something that already has an audience, in order to make
a story or a movie out of it,
right? And it's not working. I think book adaptations are important because you're doing that. You're grabbing something that has a pre-existing audience and attempting to turn it into something visual. So that pre-existing audience is going to be critical no matter what. And it's important to make sure that you do the best that you can do in adapting it. And but also that not being your focus of trying to grab that audience of trying to be like trying to grab something because of its audience. That seems to be what they do. Whereas in the past, it was like book adaptations were, I'm sure people would want to see this as a movie and it's a good story. So let's do it.
So of what I heard from people and why people did enjoy it more than I did is because even though the acting was bad, the story felt slow, the pacing was terrible for a show, and they kept it pretty accurate apparently to the books, even to the point where they threw a lot of Easter eggs in there, like at the last episode, he's with his mom and she makes him blue pancakes with blueberries. And apparently, I didn't know this. I just watched a video on it, why that was a thing, because they don't mention it. She just does it. And in the book, she did that as a thing for she had like the boyfriend that they were living with, so that the gods couldn't find him. It was this guy was kind of like a dick and or a Tom or whatever you want to call him, but she did that as a slight to him because he said there's no food that's blue or something like that. I don't know. It's a book reference. So there was a lot of things like that where they didn't explain it. They just threw it in there. And so that's why people liked it, this show. But as a show, it was a terrible show.
But I feel like book movie adaptations or show adaptations do a lot. Like Hunger Games had a ton of fan service without a lot of context. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that stuff's important, but that's not going to make a show that's not going to make it last. It's not going to make it successful. People can watch something and be like, I loved all the little Easter eggs, and then never watch it again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in some fashion, I feel like Okay, let me ask you this, Joshua. Did the movies feel like they told a better story, maybe not as accurate to the books, but a better story from the movies than the first season of this show? The first movie, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, better than the first season of Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yes, the first movie, yes. The second movie, no, because the second movie was kind of all over the place.
Sucked.
But the first movie, yes, it felt like a better story. We knew what they were doing. They were trying to get the mom back, and the lightning bolt was involved. The character, I just lost his name. The guy that actually stole the lightning bolt,
Seth. Was his name Seth?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Hermes' son.
Mm-hmm.
We knew what was going on. It was very much like, this is our MacGuffin. This is what we're doing. A good story. And then we're going to stop in Vegas. We're going to stop and see Medusa. But we have a reason for stopping and seeing Medusa. Mm-hmm. We're on a quest. What are we doing? Why are we doing a quest? What? It was like, there was so much to it. And even the lightning bolt was not a very prevalent thing in this show. He had the lightning bolt, but it was like, it didn't show up for a couple of episodes. And then when it did show up, it was like, oh, I have a lightning bolt. And that doesn't seem very important. It wasn't very important. And so it was like, we don't know why you're going on this quest.
True.
Yeah. Interesting. Give us a 1 out of 10 and we can move on.
I was going to say a 3, but I'm going to give it a 3.5, only for the fan service of the Easter eggs that they do a lot of that in the book.
For the book readers.
For the book readers, yes. I'm going to give it, I would have given it a 3, but I'm going to give it a little higher because I didn't read the book.
All right. Okay. That's pretty low for out of 10. Yeah. That's pretty freaking low. At least
that's what I think.
That's a very recommendation there.
Comment down below what you guys think. If you've seen the show, give us your rating of it, because maybe you liked it more as a book reader. I don't know.
All right. We got to analyze some stuff here. Ooh. Joe Rogan back in the news. Okay.
I don't have
Am I correct?
Can Mr. we call Rogan. Him Mr. I was going to say Mr. UFC.
No, he's not Mr. UFC.
The godfather of podcasting.
You might as well call him Daddy Podcast.
The Podfather.
You know,
the Podfather is Adam Curry.
Right, I know, but the wordplay is still there.
It is.
He's a little Italian boy, as he is, and so I'm gonna call him. He's the. What would you call him? The Sonny of the Corleone family?
Let's move on. Freaking, he got another Spotify deal, okay? A multi-year Spotify deal that's going to pay him $250 estimated. Because apparently, like, from after the $100 million deal a few years ago, there was a few things that, like, specifically Bert Kreischer alluded to on his podcast during the Sober October Crew kind of podcast, that the public did not have it right. And it was actually a lot more than $100 million.
Right.
On the first deal. This is an estimated $250 million. So this might also be incorrect as far as numbers goes, but it might be close. Who knows? And apparently he's a part of the contract for Spotify is that he also can release it on other platforms.
Ooh.
So you can kind of read this, but to summarize before maybe you read it, maybe I should summarize after. I don't know.
Summarize it for us. I'm not reading any more things on this episode.
Okay. What it sounds like to me, and I could be getting this wrong because it's very confusing to me, is so he can release it on YouTube now and Apple Podcast and Spotify.
And Rumble, maybe?
Maybe, yes.
Because I guess wherever block a lot of his stuff.
But I guess the existing podcasts are going to stay on Spotify, and everything new is going to go on like YouTube.
Okay.
Gotcha. On top of Spotify owns partial rights, not full, partial rights to advertising on that podcast. So like any ad revenue he gets from the podcast, part of it goes to Joe, part of it goes to Spotify.
Okay.
And that's what it seems like to me.
Well, it seems like multicast is kind of the new way of things where people are being less exclusive.
Yeah.
And the availability to stream, especially for people, it was like Twitch. Twitch was a big one where they were super exclusive. You couldn't stream on any other platforms. And now people can stream. They can stream on YouTube. They can stream on Twitch. They can multicast their live stream stuff. And with Twitch dying a slow, painful death,
I love it. Honestly, I love it.
Well, they moved away from gaming, and that was their biggest issue. Is they stopped. They became more concerned with just chatting categories and girls twerking and body paint and all that kind of nonsense, and moved away from gaming. And it's good that people have been able to stream on YouTube, so that when Twitch dies, they will have already established that they are on other platforms.
Right.
And it seems like I think Spotify is taking a calculated risk here, where they want more people to see the podcast. They want it to be more widely viewed, and they're okay with that on if it being on other platforms.
So they're paying Joe to basically attach themselves to his ad revenue. So that's the problem. Hold on. It's not a problem because they're paying him a good amount of money. And honestly, here's another thing. Joe, his previous contract, he was allowed to release clips on YouTube. But once they did that, his channel on YouTube specifically became a lot less popular because everyone was watching on Spotify the whole episodes. And then there's like 3 Joe Rogan clip fake sites that popped up and are still getting millions of views every day.
Yeah.
From stealing the podcast and creating their own clips from the podcast on YouTube, right? So there's these channels that are literally mooching off of Joe Rogan money on YouTube. And so if he's able to establish himself back on every platform he wants to, and then just say, whenever I make money on all these platforms, a little bit of it goes to Spotify because they're my hosting, they're my pod daddy or whatever.
Well, so I heard a really big YouTuber say this, and I didn't know this was a thing. Big companies, really big companies like Spotify, will buy the rights to your YouTube channel for a period of time, like a year, 2 years. And you keep creating content, but any revenue that comes from that YouTube channel, they basically have the rights to it. Like they own the ads that go up there basically to an extent, and they own the revenue that comes in from that.
Right.
But they have to pay you enough for you to do that. So they have to pay like $100 million to own the rights to your YouTube channel as you're still creating content. But you make a deal with them.
Right.
I'm going to release 2 videos a week or 3 videos a week of a podcast or like just a reaction video. And I'm probably going to get this many views because I know my channel normally does that. So you'll probably get this much in ad revenue type thing.
Right. So is that what they're doing here? You think they're...
In a way, they are.
You think they're owning partial rights to his YouTube channel?
They're owning partial rights to the ad revenue that comes from this podcast. By
I don't look. I don't think it has anything to do with his YouTube AdSense. I don't think it has anything to do with
not AdSense, but like there's advertising on Spotify.
It's only the ad revenue for the advertisements that he does himself for the podcast because he usually advertises 4 to 5 things an episode, right?
Yeah.
So there's big incentive for him to be on other platforms, because that's going to be more people
eyeballs.
seeing those ads that he puts on his show.
Yeah. So
that they get some kickback from.
It was estimated before the Spotify deal that Joe Rogan, with a audience of between 9 and 11 million on average, when he was doing everything on YouTube and every platform except Spotify, which is why he got the Spotify deal as exclusive. But there was an estimated $30,000 an episode he was making, or 30,000 an ad read that he was making. And if he did like 2 or 3 or 4 ad reads in an episode, now who knows how much, because he said that when he went on Spotify, he actually was kind of in some capacity hoping that the audience, he would become less relevant because he was way too relevant. But when he moved to Spotify, his audience grew. Now he's a strong 11 million average. You know what I mean?
He just said on the Sober October crew episode that just happened to Bert. Bert was like, I'm embarrassed. I say things on podcasts, and Joe is like, yeah, 11 million people are probably going to hear you say that. And so he said that on the podcast.
So he's got a strong 11 million.
Yeah. It's confirmed that like he gets about 11 million views per episode.
Interesting.
So with that information, if Spotify is saying, hey, we get a kickback every time he does an ad read for any company.
Yeah.
If back in 2019, 2018, if his each ad was worth $25,000 to $30,000, I'm curious, and you do like 5 an episode and he does an episode 4 times a week.
And it's on multiple platforms.
Multiple platforms. Who knows how much that's going to equal out to? We might be flirting with $500,000 a week.
It could be it's probably a pretty good deal for Spotify.
Yeah, it's definitely worth more than $250 million. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how much they're paying for this right for Joe.
And I don't know all the details of this because I'm kind of loosely kind of confused a little bit. But two, I imagine that's going to make Joe doesn't probably have to find his sponsors. Like, you know how, Spotify might have to be like, they are probably approved by Joe, but I imagine Spotify's like, we'll get sponsors for you, or we'll be the kind of your middleman between getting you ads for your podcast. Right.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I'm sure he probably can get a list and then select which ones. So he might be like, hey, I don't use BetterHelp myself, but I think therapy is a good idea, so I'll do an advertisement for BetterHelp. Yeah. Or he might be like, he does like his company Alpha Brain that he owns with someone else. He does actual ads for them as well. So it's probably a toss up. I'm sure he gets a list either from Spotify or approved by Spotify, and then it's all theories at this point about how he does his business. But all that to say, however many years this multi-year deal is, it's worth more than $250 million because
it has
Spotify,
to be profitable.
Spotify needs to be profitable here.
Yeah.
And so it's worth a lot of money. So let's just say 4 years. Let's be super generous and say this is a multi-year, 4-year deal. All right. Okay. So let's see, $250 million. All right. Divided by 4 years. That means his podcast has to be worth $62,500,000 a year. All right. That's how much that would be worth to break even if it was 4 years.
Right. And it'll be worth more than that.
It will be. We might be flirting with 80 to 100 million a year of what it's worth.
That's wild. That's wild. That's money coming from the internet.
Yeah,
dude. But 11 million internet users.
Yeah,
and who knows how much it's going to grow in the next 4 years.
And if we want to like look at his audience base too, I know it's probably not. We've talked about this before. Of like, females are more of the spenders of things like product wise.
Yep.
I don't think his main audience is like
female.
is like a female led audience. It's definitely male.
They look like me.
Yeah.
His audience looks like me.
Yeah.
Of all ages, but they like me. That's what they are. Right.
Yeah.
And we spend money on some things, but not everything.
I mean,
definitely not as much as women spend money.
Are you getting a subscription to Black Rifle Coffee because Joe is telling you?
I'm gonna be honest.
My friend is doing Black Rifle Coffee.
I'm gonna be honest. On 2 different occasions, I filled out the stuff and didn't put my card number in, and decided last minute to back out. But I was this close on 2 different occasions to get a Black Rifle Coffee subscription.
I worked with someone at Lowe's that they would come in every morning with their Black Rifle Coffee.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, but for every guy that fills out the information but doesn't put their card info in, there's probably 5 to 6 guys who are.
Yeah.
Well, way more than 5 to 6. I wouldn't say they're.
Let's play the 1% rule. Let's play the 1% rule.
So that's,
like I said at the top of the podcast. So if you have 11 million viewers, that means your paying audience, let's see, times 0.01. That means your paying audience is around 110 million.
Yeah, well, even if
110,000. 110,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of people paying for your stuff.
Paying let's say you make $5 on each person.
No, you need to be reasonable. Anywhere from $20 to $50 annually. So let's just put it in the middle.
I was saying per month, $5 per month.
Oh yeah, $5 per month. But let's think about in annual numbers. Okay. All right. So if you were to say 110,000 people are your paying customer, and let's just say $35 to be right in the middle of the road. All right. So annually, you make $35 from each of these people. That's $3,850,000. So it's nowhere close to what Spotify is saying it's worth. So I'm curious.
It's definitely more than 1% that's buying stuff.
Maybe.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be more than 1%.
Yeah, we're being. I think we're being stingy with the numbers.
Conservative.
Really conservative with the numbers.
Or he has his audience so dialed in that like 40% of his audience
is that what it is?
You know what I mean?
The alpha brain, you take the alpha brain and you're dialed in. Joe Rogan said it. I got to buy it.
Right. That's right. So dialed in to over 2,000 episodes of investment of dialing in your audience.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
The only people that have those kind of numbers are Rhett and Link, for being honest.
Well, no, their numbers aren't like that.
Well, their numbers are not as profitable as Joe's, but I think you'd be surprised because they have over 2,000 episodes of PMM.
You know what I find interesting is the reason Twitch is having an issue right now is because during the pandemic there were a lot of people staying at home, so there were a lot more people watching Twitch. There were a lot more people streaming on Twitch, and the gaming scene was big on Twitch, but it started to morph into other things. A lot of women seeing it as an opportunity to make money because they could easily. Right. And now a lot of those women are seeing less and less and less numbers because there's less and less and less gaming, which is why people were subscribed to Twitch. And there's less and less people staying at home. And so the numbers are declining. And so you're getting a lot of big streamers like what's her name? Pokimane, who's she's abandoning Twitch. She's going to YouTube. And it's because
and OnlyFans probably.
I don't know if she's on OnlyFans.
It would be a good idea if you're a woman gamer, even if you're not showing off your body. People are there because you're cute or some other reason.
What are we getting at here? We're talking about.
What I'm saying is, she's chasing the money and she's leaving where the money is leaving and going to where there is money, which is YouTube. And of course she's making it like a moral thing and not like that she's actually just chasing the money, which she is. But it's interesting that Joe Rogan's numbers have just are going up.
Yeah.
They're not changing because of because of like pandemic stuff. They're staying steady and they're going up.
You know what? Back in 2020, when he got the Spotify deal, as soon as it came out that he was going on Spotify, and there was going to be like this 4-month purgatory period where it was going to be on Spotify and YouTube for the transition period, I instantly was like, well, I'm going to keep watching Joe Rogan. I might as well get used to using Spotify. I downloaded it that day, signed up for a free account, and I've been watching Joe Rogan on Spotify ever since. I think a ton of people did the exact same thing. Never used Spotify, signed up that day, and freaking have been using it since. I just don't see, like, we're here because we love the product. We're not here because the platform is awesome.
The thing I find interesting is that a lot of people are quoting, this like masculinity culture.
Yeah.
And moving away from platforms because of masculinity culture. But clearly masculinity culture is working for Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And the numbers aren't decreasing.
Okay, but that's almost an unfair thing because it's not just masculinity culture. It's informed culture. It's red pill culture. You know what I mean? There's a huge audience around this because he's bringing on people that are anti-vax, right? He's bringing on people who are Republican, which is a big deal. He's been doing that for years. He's been bringing on people who are questioning the current status of how the evolutionary theory took place. Like he's talking about, he's bringing on people that challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with masculinity culture. That has to
But that's what they call it.
They call it that because he's bald and has muscles.
Right. And because he promotes he promotes lots of, man stuff.
Yeah, right. But he also promotes a lot of women's stuff. He really does.
Yeah, but so where the where the women are the women made these Twitch accounts and we're getting millions of views. Now that people are back to work and not watching them, the views are going down, the money is drying up, and because people want actual content.
Right. This is interesting that it doesn't matter what we do, we always end up back on YouTube. For years now, since 2005, all of the competitors to YouTube just have seemed to dry up or be not as superior. And Spotify's only sticking around because they're like, hey, we continue doing things in the music and podcast world that keep us relatively relevant, but they don't have nearly as many podcasts on their platform as YouTube does. And
YouTube's ability to evolve and change, and even though their terms of service can be absolute crap, their ability to make their platform accessible to music creators, to podcast people, to gaming, it's like, yeah, other people are doing this better, so let's make YouTube a place where people can do this too.
Well, I mean, you're right that it is sucky. I'll give an example. The problem is they pay too well for you not to use them, and they have too much exposure for you not to use them, and they have too much of a good algorithm that works for you to not use them. And it's sucky with the terms of service because right now I'm dealing with an issue that even if you talk about like the Israel-Hamas war, like you instantly get blocked with it's not safe for advertisers, which is really frustrating right now. And that's the problem that a lot of people, including Joe Rogan, has been complaining about YouTube and other platforms. But then let's take it to Rumble for a second. Rumble's platform sucks.
Yeah, I would agree. The user interface is terrible, very lacking.
But I get on it 3 times a week to watch Louder with Crowder.
There you go. Yeah,
I'm here for Louder with Crowder, not because of the platform. The platform honestly sucks. I hate.
That's the only way for the platform to get better is for people to use it and to get user feedback.
And the only way you do that is for creators that people love to be on there. Really, and
but you're only getting on there to watch a specific show. You're not going on there and scrolling to see what's new like you are YouTube.
No, honestly, maybe we can maybe the AI will hear this and make a clip, and maybe it'll make its way to one of the producers for Steven Crowder or somebody. All right, here we go. I'm gonna leave a pitch here at the end of the podcast. Steven Crowder, I know how much you care about free speech. I know how much you care about not being censored and the ability to say what you want, especially with the new initiative for your investigative branch of your company. But I have to say, you've chosen a platform that gives you free speech, that allows you to live stream and upload videos, but its platform sucks. Your live streams are always laggy. Your lips are out of sync. You have weird, freaking, low quality, like hyper conservative conspiracy theory advertisements that play before your video. And ultimately, like, even your interface, I'm sure your team's frustrated with it. The uploading and categorizing and data set process sucks on Rumble. So I say all of this to say Rumble doesn't need to go away. It needs to grow. But for one, it needs to get a better algorithm, and it needs to figure out what people actually like, and it needs to get some IT people that know how to make the platform work well without all the glitches every single day. So
even just accessibility.
Even just accessibility. Freaking Rumble's awesome because it creates competition, but it's nowhere near YouTube. So Rumble and Steven Crowder, figure the freak out so that you actually have a product worth selling. There you go. Maybe Opus Clips will find that the AI software and clip that section out.
And maybe and with that we say
hold on. I have another thing before we're gonna leave. I wasn't the last thing I wanted to say. I wanted to make sure we end with the big picture. Just, Denis Villeneuve, Timothée Chalamet, and Greg Fraser all together. I just wanted to make sure we end with that.
Okay. Get out there, watch The Chosen this weekend.
Is it open this weekend? All month we have Chosen stuff coming out because we have 3 different showings, right?
Yeah, get out there and watch The Chosen. We'll see you at your local theater watching The Chosen.